Okay, so in this iteration, what I targeted here is actually getting the ride estimate, price estimates and services from Uber. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to uh, run the application so you can see what's going on here. Okay, so since I'm already authenticated as a user, I am logged in um, via the Firebase authentication. The user will be presented with a maps activity. So when I click on the search bar here, I'm just going to type in an address uh, that let's say I'd like to go to. And, once I click on this address, as you can see, this is my current location. This is my destination location. And now, as a user, I want to go ahead and I want to get the ride estimates. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the Get Ride Estimates button. And so when I do that, you can see right here in the log, um, you'll see that I'm printing out the ride estimate data that I actually got from the Uber server. So what I have available to me, let's say around me right now, is an Uber pool with a price estimate of $7 to $9. And the duration I need to convert to minutes. I believe this is in seconds. Um, there's also an Uber X for $8 to $11. There's Uber Black SUV that is $26 to $33. There's Uber XL $13 to $16, and there is an Uber Black $17 to $21. Um, so how all of this is kind of happening is that essentially I built a Uber REST API service, which where basically I'm just using the Uber price estimates endpoint um, and using my Uber server token to be able to get that information. And so the server token is actually something that I got from Uber's developer dashboard for my application. And so what happens here in the maps activity is that when I click the Get Ride Price Estimates button, um, I basically call into the Uber REST API service. I set the context of the application context, and I set the ride coordinates object here. And there it looks like there's going to be a little bit of an ad that pops up here in a couple of seconds on Visor. Excuse me for that. Um, let's see. Okay, I'm sorry about Easily this. Run your business cloud applications with Droplets, a scalable compute platform with add-on storage, monitoring, and okay, so sorry about that. Back to the application. So here in the Uber REST API service, I basically call this method called start background thread. And so what I'm doing here is I'm using an asynchronous task and I'm executing that. So inside of the execution of this new thread, I call the get Uber ride estimates method. And so here what I'm doing is I'm just making some changes or concatenating the starting latitude and longitude and the end latitude and longitude from the ride coordinates object that I got based on my current location and my destination. So I then create a HTTPS URL connection using these headers with the authorization token, and then on a successful response, which as you can see from the log, I got a successful response here. I'm going ahead and I'm just parsing the data using the JSON reader. And so I call this method here, parse price, um, to be able to get the data that I'm looking for from the JSON. So what I look for is the localized display name, which is the Uber product name. So as you can see here, that is let's say, for example, Uber Pool. And then I also look for the estimate, which is that price range estimate you see here, let's say $7 to $9. And the duration, which is actually the ETA. I can believe that the ETA is in minutes, and I need to seconds, and I need to convert that to minutes, so it's more readable for the user. But yeah, so those are the pieces of information that I wanted to get from the price estimates data for each ride option. So yeah, so that's what I got working. I still have to get the recycler view up, and I still need to get the data the same way for Lyft. And another thing that I wanted to target this iteration was just try to clean up some of the code and some of where some of the responsibilities lie. So in the link rideshare account activity, I removed all the Uber authentication code here and I moved it to the Uber ride request service. So here, what I'm just doing is configuring the service with what I need, and I'm calling the configure access token manager, access token and login manager. And then what I'm doing is I'm using the login manager to log in via using the link rideshare account activity, but all of this is happening in the Uber request service. So inside of the Uber request service, what I'm doing is I'm just building and configuring the Uber SDK, where I'm setting the scope, where I'm requesting ride widget options, and I'm also requesting from the user access to be able to process ride requests for them. And since this application isn't in production, I'm just using the Uber server sandbox. But once this goes to production, I could change this to production. Um, and so here, when I call that configure access token and login manager method that you see here, it's just creating a new access token manager and a login manager. So with the login manager, we have the Uber login callback. And so here on success, what I want to do with the access token, which I need in order to do things like get process request a ride for the user via my app, is to set the access token. I need to use the access token for that. So um, basically, so what I'm doing is storing that access token in the access token manager provided by Uber. But I also wanted to try and get this working just simply via accessing using shared preferences. And so I wanted to basically create a new file, an Uber user access token file, and store the user access token there. Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out how to get that to work properly, which I was trying to do here because I wanted to be able to access the same shared preferences file here in my REST API service, so that I can actually make use of the access token and do be able to issue more privileged requests. Because as you can see, the Uber price estimates only requires the Uber server token, which I already have, but the user bearer token authentication access token needs to be something that comes from when the single sign-on happens with the Uber app. So yeah, so that's what I ended up targeting for this iteration. I know that I still need to get the UI up and actually displaying this, from going from the log to the recycler view. So definitely let me know if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions or feedback. I would definitely like to know. Thank you very much for watching. And yep, thank you so much.